Every great TV show has a beginning,
but it's the finale that can leave its mark on television history.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Jeff, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast where we watch and discuss the pilots for shows while sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
But this month, we're doing things a little different. For the month of December, we're judging the series finales of some of our favorite shows that we've done on the pod.
And since we're covering series finales, we'll be delving much more into the series as a whole, so we must warn you, there are spoilers ahead. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am really good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've had quite a day today.
We've had quite a day, but
got it all taken care of. Everything's all good. We are going out of town tomorrow. And yeah, so we are, sorry, my mind just I just had a complete brain fart. My brain was just like, I don't want to think right now. This is actually my first time really sitting down and stopping for the first time today. And
since we woke up
7 o'clock
3
in the
hours late.
Yes. We took a sleeping pill way too late in the night. Overslept. We didn't miss anything, but we slept later than we were planning to, which we had to move all of our plans like 3 hours ahead. And then what I was trying to do ended up getting sidetracked, and I had to go fix something. And then I was getting my car inspected. I had to deal with all this other stuff, and we went and met my mom for dinner, and then we drove home. It's dark. It's been
raining.
Dark all day. It's been raining, and we are going on a cruise, a Caribbean cruise. We are leaving on Thursday, but we're leaving a couple days early to visit with some family, go see baby Ollie, and we are here recording our first episode of the month, and it is our second annual series finale month.
Yeah.
We are ending we're ending the opposite of how we start, I guess, because we're doing series finales again, but we are specifying with shows that we have done this year. I think I originally had something for me that was from our first year of podcasting, but you were like, no, let's just do it from this month.
Yes.
But shows we've already done.
From this year, January,
yes.
November, through November.
So we are starting off with, I would say, is going to be our most controversial series finale. As far as the fan bases go, I would say this is a very divisive series finale.
It was a very divisive show,
right?
I think,
right. But even it's interesting about. So today we were doing the series finale for girls, and it is considered to be one of the most divisive. The fans are very divided on how they feel about this. We'll kind of get into that in a minute. But for right now, I kind of just want to talk about, since it's the end of the year, some of the shows that we're watching right now. I would say we're watching All Her Fault right now, which is really good. I don't know when that show came out exactly. It has to be fairly new.
Oh, yeah.
From this year. Of course, we're watching Welcome to Derry.
So good.
So good. And then we have now finished Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. Also outrageously, ridiculously good. That 4th episode, we are watching that final clip. We've watched that final clip probably about 9 or 10 times at this point.
More than that for me while you've been gone. And we also started Stumble,
yeah.
I keep saying stunt because of cheerleading, but it's cheerleading, but it's Stumble.
Yeah, and it's just a play. It's just kind of a parody, a satire of Cheer, and really funny. Taran Killam, Kristen Chenoweth. By the way, Kristen Chenoweth, sorry, your Broadway show isn't working out.
Yeah.
But, she's in a million things at once, so she's fine.
She'll be fine.
All right, so today we are doing girls. We are talking the series finale. We got some questions. And so what I'm also going to do for this month, since it's the end of the month, the end of the year, our final month of the year, we are doing series finales. So I'm going to be asking you each episode. I'm going to be asking us a reflective question, kind of to look back on our year of podcasting. Now that this is our first full year of podcasting, and I would say by now we're pretty in it. It comes off pretty naturally to us now.
Oh yeah.
I would say from comparing this to our first 2 or 3 months of recording was very different. And so we're going to do all of that. But for now, Anna's going to give us some episode and series information. Now, for the character descriptions, I kind of put like how these characters have developed over the series. I went according to the internet. If you find anything that you don't agree with or that you want to give your input on,
I will add
feel
it.
free.
Thank
This
you.
is your show. I watch it with you, but this is your show. You know the characters way better than I do. Like I said, I had to go off of Google and the fandom site. So yeah, so do your thing and give us some episode and series information.
All right, Girls, series finale, Latching. Girls was an American comedy drama that aired on HBO from 2012 to 2017 for 6 seasons and 62 episodes. The series was created by Lena Dunham and was executive produced by Judd Apatow. The series finale aired on April 16, 2017. The series follows Hannah Horvath, played by Dunham, and her 3 friends, Marnie, Jessa, and Shoshana, as the 4 girls navigate life, love, their career, their family, their friends, and New York, all while living in New York City. The series stars Lena Dunham as Hannah Horvath. Hannah began the series as an anxious, self-absorbed, entitled millennial, and by the series end, well, not much has changed. She does show a little bit signs of maturation, and we'll talk a little bit about that and why here in just a moment. But she's still pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Allison Williams as Marnie Michaels, Hannah's best friend.
My favorite.
At the beginning of the series, Marnie is somewhat uptight, somewhat mature, probably the only one who really had a full-time job.
Right.
But she lacks self-awareness and is known for being a bit of a buzzkill. By the end, she's been humbled in a big way. She has a failed marriage, a failed music career. She has a falling out with her mother and is kind of just aimlessly going about trying to figure out what she wants to do next in her life.
I love Marnie. I relate to her. Every time we watch an episode that's Marnie focused, I'm like, this is the character that I relate to.
Yeah, and by the end, she's really clinging to Hannah on the pretense that Hannah needs her and that's her best friend and she loves her the most. Jemima Kirk plays Jessa Johansson, Hannah's other close friend. She is a free spirit, known for having a somewhat of a bohemian lifestyle, but is very volatile and self-destructive. Jessa betrays Hannah by the series end by sleeping with and starting a relationship with Adam, Hannah's longtime ex-boyfriend.
I didn't know how to describe him.
Yeah, that was
I didn't
like
know how to
Adam
describe
started as Hannah's like hookup, and then they become a couple. They have makeups and breakups, and towards the end, Jessa and Adam sort of bond in AA meetings and start to develop their relationship behind Hannah's back, which she discovers later on, while Hannah's in another relationship, but still the sting really kind of destroys their friendship. Sosha Mamet plays Shoshana Shapiro, Jessa's cousin. Shosh is the exact opposite of the other girls. She's optimistic, ambitious, hardworking, but she's really naive and has really low self-esteem. By the end of the series, Shoshana is engaged to be married, has come into her own. She's gained some confidence because she's traveled abroad.
Yeah.
She's been fired, but kind of takes her, college knowledge and degree, helping Ray and a coffee shop, and then just going to the next level.
Her episode in Japan is not like one of your favorites.
Oh, it's totally one of my favorites. And by the end, she kind of realizes that she's outgrown the other girls as friends and has developed a new friend group. Adam Driver plays Adam Sackler, Hannah's longtime ex-boyfriend and Jessa's current boyfriend. Andrew Rannells, my boo, plays Elijah Krantz, Hannah's college boyfriend, who has come out as gay throughout the series. And he's looking for his own career on Broadway as an actor, dancer, singer. Hannah and Elijah go from hostile frenemies to best friends and roommates.
It's funny early on in the series that they still weren't, at the beginning of the series, that they weren't best friends. I think the way I was introduced to their relationship, they were already like an established like roommates, besties. So I just figured that's how they'd always been. And I don't think I'd ever watched the first season with you. And then like I went back. I think we went back and watched the episodes. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that they started out as like not best friends.
Right, because she's come down with HPV, and she thinks Elijah gave it to her, and that's when he's introduced on that episode.
Oh, okay.
Alex Karpovsky plays Ray Plashansky, Shoshana's ex, Marnie's ex. He owns the coffee shop.
Gotcha.
He was friends with Marnie's ex-boyfriend. And
the one that she runs into
in that
episode. I love that episode.
It's one of my favorite ones with the Marnie-centered episode. And then Eben Moss-Bachrach, my other boo, plays Desi Harperin, Marnie's ex-husband, partner in their musical career. And they get divorced, and he has all kinds of issues. Despite being series regulars, the following characters do not appear in the series finale: Jessa, Shoshana, Adam, Elijah, Ray, and Desi. Jessa, Shoshana, and Elijah appear in the second to last episode of the series Goodbye Tour. Adam and Ray appear in the third to last episode, What Will We Do This Time About Adam? And Desi last appears in the sixth episode of season 6, Full Disclosure.
Which that was the name of Adam's movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although not a series regular, Becky Ann Baker, who plays Hannah's mother, Laureen, plays a pivotal role in the series finale.
I love her so much.
Oh, she's like one of our faves. The reaction to the girls' series finale was mixed, to say the least. A lot of the fans felt that the finale was lackluster compared to the penultimate episode, Goodbye Tour, the second to last episode, which had much more of a finality to it. In Goodbye Tour, the girls reunite for the first time in a long time at Shoshana's engagement party. They realize that their friendship has soured and it's probably best if they part ways. Hannah and Jessa, to me, sort of forgive one another.
Right.
It's a very loose, like,
it's
whatever.
Like an unspoken, very millennial, kind of a never fully communicating with each other type of... Because I watched the clip of it, and like I watched little clips of the episode just to get an idea of what happened in Goodbye Tour, because I didn't really remember it.
Yeah, and I've always felt like, and we could talk about this a little bit more too, that, I mean, you're also kind of left wondering, like, whatever happened with Jessa and Adam.
Yeah.
And I honestly just don't think they'll ever make it. I think they're both too,
After that episode where they tear the apartment, where they destroy the apartment.
That was way before. That was a few episodes before.
Yeah, but that was in the final season, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but that kind of just tells you that like their relationship isn't
gonna
last.
This episode came after the What Will We Do This Time About Adam episode, where Adam tells Jessa he wants to go and raise Hannah's baby with her. And she's like, okay, so she goes out to a bar and hooks up with someone, which is her solution to feeling loved and accepted by from the person who has just semi-rejected you. But they get back together at the end of that episode. So it's a very, very, like, probably unhealthy relationship, but they're both happy to be unhealthy together for at least right now.
Yeah.
All right. And then so
they forgive each other.
Hannah reveals that she is pregnant and she's moving out of the city to take a teaching job. And the episode ends with the four girls dancing together as one last hurrah.
Now, is that...
That was the Goodbye Tour ending.
Yes.
Although Jessa knew because Adam told her.
I think what I found out later was that Jessa's the first one to learn that she's having a boy.
Oh, okay.
I think Hannah tells Jessa she's having a boy, and she hadn't told anyone else that.
Yeah, well, because Marnie knows she's pregnant, and then Shoshana must have heard it from Jessa because that's why Hannah wasn't invited to the engagement party, because she's like, why would I invite you to my party? You didn't tell me you were pregnant. So like that's like another sign of like, I've moved on, you've moved on apparently. So like, why are we dancing around this issue? Many fans felt that Hannah had made so much progress during the final season, only for her to regress back to her old ways in the series finale. You wrote this about the symbolism of latching. That was my sentiment.
I know that was yours, and you did tell me that, but like other fans obviously picked up on
Yeah,
the
but
idea.
I think a lot later, because during
Yes.
the initial run of it, people were like really
It's
upset.
it is like a retroactive appreciation. It's like the series. It's a lot like the series finale for How I Met Your Mother, where people didn't like it at first, but as time passed, and maybe as they grew up more and lived more life, they understood that like we don't need a finality to something because that's not how life works. So
Correct.
like that life just keeps going.
Right.
And there's no finality unless you die until your last day on Earth. And I think a lot of fans, because we're in an era, especially in this era of television, where series finales were just different, and there was a lot of finality to these things, and kind of leaving things open ended was still very new to TV series finales. Like any series finale that did that before, people hated it. Like people hate the Sopranos series finale because they just continue living their lives, and it's just kind of the same with Ozark, where it's like they just continue living their lives because it's like, well, what's going to happen? They're all going to die. Like,
Right.
so what's fun about watching that in a series finale? And I think with Game of Thrones was also a big disappointment for a lot of people because it just was too open-ended. But I'm like, what do y'all want? Like, what do y'all expect? And now it's now series finales are all like that. Like, there's all this.
Well, now because they want to leave it open for the reboot,
Right.
probably. So,
Right, and I
in
mean, like,
20 years.
Right, and so now it's totally normal for there to have like open-ended endings. But I think in 2017, people weren't ready for that. I just personal opinion, like just kind of looking back at the era and the TV shows that were going on at the time, it was very not unacceptable for a show to have an open-ended series finale.
I think also they wanted a happy ending, and this to me was not really at all a happy ending, not in any way whatsoever.
No, not really.
I mean, she had a baby and she had a new job and she was starting life, but even though the ending at the very, very last scene seems somewhat like of a like, okay.
Yeah.
I still don't think Hannah's happy.
Right.
I anyway, we can discuss that a little bit more. But the term latching, and in essence to what you wrote here, was kind of my perspective was, and I'm pretty blunt because I think you asked me about this when we did the episode in April, was like, why did you like this show?
Yeah.
What kept you watching it? Because it seems like everything you're against. And it was because I said, I was so opposite of Hannah. I could not wait to be on my own.
Yeah.
I could not wait to be earning my own money and making my own decisions and having a job and doing all of those things away from my parents. And here Hannah was 4 years post college, still having her bills paid for by her parents who weren't super wealthy, and asking them for 2 more years when they told her they were cutting her off. She's like, no. I'm going to finally finish my book. I promise.
Yeah.
But can you give me 2 more years to do it? I haven't had time. But this comes back to the end of, and you'll talk probably a little bit about this in the series finale summary, is her baby, she can't get the baby to latch on to breastfeed. And so it's kind of a full circle moment where the series starts where she's wanting to stay on the parental tit and keep getting the money. And here in this series finale, she can't get her baby to latch onto her. So
to her tit.
So it was kind of ironic and sort of a great ending. Even in their series finale recap, they don't really discuss that.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was what it was. I don't know if that's what Lena Dunham meant. It seemed very like a natural interpretation of it.
Yeah.
I think she just, like you said, was like, life goes on. It's not always happy. It's not always perfect. And even if you're an asshole, you can get accidentally pregnant and have this kid and also make the choices because, like, I think all of her friends and her parents were like, and what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And that's what her mom comes back. And so, again, you'll probably talk about that, so we can talk about that a little bit.
So the series finale, it was 30 minutes long. It was very kind of cut and dry. I stretched out as much as I could, and I only got a page of a plot summary. But obviously, there is a lot of stuff that happened in between. But so I'll ask you two questions while I'm telling the summary just to kind of elaborate on that a little bit more. But I'm going to ask you a pod-related question.
Okay.
And I think this one's, I'm kind of starting off with an easy, not an easy one, but one that's, you don't have to think as hard about, I don't think. So we've been doing this now for a year and a half, and every genre you can think of. We've even tapped into reality TV. I think about the only genre that we have not tapped into are anthology shows. Who knows? We might do a month of that one day. But so we've gained a lot of perspective on what it's like to do a podcast. What has been your favorite thing about doing a podcast other than spending time with me? Because I think that's our default answer because it's the true answer. But like, I think it is an excuse for us to spend more time together. But other than that,
I will actually say that I love how we pull from these vault of stories, because even in the car just now, we were talking about the questions, because you don't always tell me what the questions are. And you were telling me the story about what you're going to talk about on this pod. And I was like, we'll save it for the pod, tell me the whole thing then. Or you were like, I need to also kind of remember everything that happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's like pulling those stories out, because I think even as a couple, even if, we're coming up on our 8-year anniversary in 29 days, I just feel like unless you've known each other since like you were young and birthed, or, grew up on the same street, went to the same schools, had all the same friends, went to all the same events and parties, and had all the same experiences, you just don't know every single thing about your partner, all the stories that have happened in your life. And I think that's what's been fun, is just bringing some of these insane stories and experiences and jobs and parental stories, sibling stories, friend stories, and just retelling those, because I honestly really thought like, oh my gosh, we are going to struggle to keep this pod going. And we never seem to do that. And I don't feel like we're being fake. I don't think we've repeated a ton of stories. We may have referenced the same story every now and then, but I feel like we always have something to talk about, and we always learn something new about each other or from each other. And to me, that's what's been most fun, is just hearing all of these stories about our lives.
Yeah, I think what's been so special about that is we tell these stories, and in the moment, it didn't feel, maybe in the moment that it happened to us, it didn't feel like this big moment in our lives. And looking back on it, it didn't seem like a big moment in our lives. But when we connect it to a storyline from a TV show, or when we connect it to a character or just a random question, I begin to realize how much this one small moment in my life had such a big impact on me. And I think that is something that I've really grown to love and appreciate about doing this podcast. I mean, other than learning so much about you and learning so much more. I don't know why you always laugh when I say that.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I just said. It's like, I mean, we met really both late in our lives. I mean, you were in your 30s, I was in my 40s. And so we had a lot of life that we weren't together. And so, we're playing catch up on the not getting to know one another, but hearing our stories. It's not like we're going to just sit in the living room and go, tell me about a time when you were 16. And, we're just going to talk about that. But interplaying it between these TV shows and what's happening there, we can go, oh my God, something like that sort of happened to me too. And so, I think that's what I love about it. Like,
I think something that I've really loved about doing this podcast, and it doesn't happen that often, but every time it does, like, I always appreciate it, is how this podcast, when people listen to it, and the majority of people that listen to our podcast are friends and families and people that we know, and it's just really kind of funny to kind of, like, I told the story about when we did the Futurama episode, when we did the Futurama episode, and I talked about the episode Jurassic Park, and I was like the guy that I work with, Jordan, and we talk about that episode a lot. All you have to do is say Jurassic Park, and it will, he will immediately have a reaction to it. And then Nick Peroni, fan and friend of the podcast, he is in the same fantasy football league as Jordan. And I think Jordan was like pissing him off, and he just texted Jurassic Park to him, and everyone was like, "How did you know about that?" It's like Jeff's podcast, and that was kind of also like, I think people at work started getting curious about my podcast because I don't talk about it at work. That's just, to me, that's just so obnoxious to reference your podcast at work. I don't know. It just feels very like braggadocious. That's just not how I am, and I think that's what got people at work. I don't know if they listen to the podcast, but it got them kind of interested in like, oh, like you have a podcast and like you're for real about
almost
it. And
like to 200 episodes, right?
We are in the one, we just hit 130 something.
Oh, okay. We're over 100 though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're well over 100.
Because we did stop doing 2 a week.
Right.
So yeah.
Who knows what episode number we'd be at
Well, and
now.
you just mentioned anthologies. During my month in April, we are doing a new spin on show, so we will wait on that.
Very excited about that.
Yeah, so I got to pick some special shows.
So I think that's been kind of my favorite thing, other than spending time with you and learning more about you, and learning more about your past, and being able to, because you and I have very different, up until we met, you and I led very different lives. And, you went to college, you have a very professional life, career, and my life went another way, and I was a little bit more working class, blue collar, whatever you want to call it. Like I rented out apartments, I had roommates, like I had a very different adult experience than you did, and yet we can kind of come together and tell these stories. And a lot of times y'all are hearing Anna's story for the first time, and so am I. And so
exactly.
It's just like, and I think something that I want to work on for myself is being more interactive when you're telling a story, but I'm just usually just sitting there being like, because I've never heard it, so I want to hear it,
right.
And I don't want you to like lose, your momentum with telling the story, and so I just kind of sit here and go, because I just want to hear I just want to hear you talk. I want to hear your story. But that is something that I want to work on in the future, is being a little bit more interactive when you tell a story.
Got it.
But I'm just you're such a great storyteller, and you kind of do a Kevin Smith where you just kind of start talking, and I just sit there and being like, just wanting to hear the whole story.
That's always why I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
Yeah.
Because you're just listening, and I'm like, how long have I been going?
And it's like 2 minutes. Yeah. So what is your least favorite thing about doing a podcast? It don't have to be,
I'm really, the least favorite part is that we're not being paid for it.
Yes.
I wish we could be paid out there. Any AG1 that want to sponsor us.
ZocDoc or whatever it's called.
Anybody that wants to sponsor us. No, just kidding. No, I mean...
Monster Java, want to sponsor.
Delta Airlines,
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean Cruise
yeah.
Lines. No, I mean, I don't think there's anything that I dislike about it. I really can't think of it. I mean, I wish we did have more time to do it, in the sense of like, today ended up being freaking nuts, aside from the fact that we just like overslept by 3 hours.
Yeah.
But then you had a little blip with your car situation that you had to go get fixed, and then that took a whole nother 2 hours to go back and do. And so I got delayed because I was supposed to do a class at 2. I was prepping for an hour.
Yeah.
Then while I was waiting from the school that didn't show up, I was sitting here like, great, I could have been doing something else during all of that time. And so now I was just all frazzled. So today did not go up. And now what we had planned to do earlier today, we're doing now at 7:00.
Yeah.
So on the night before we leave for vacation. So anyway, I wish we did have more time to dedicate to it. Not that I think it's bad or that we have a bad format, because I think we do have a really good rhythm and the way that you write it up, and we talk about it and, prepare and whatnot. But yeah, there, other than just time that I wish we had to devote to it, I like the way we do it. I'm glad we are now to one episode a week. It's much more manageable, much less stressful, and I feel like we're still doing a great job and can keep doing it in the future.
Yeah, it's less that it's my least favorite thing about the podcast. It's more like the least favorite thing about me. It's more of like I wish that there are days where I know we need to record, and it'll make things so much easier on me to edit and to prepare, but I get home from work and I don't want to record. And I wish that I could be a little bit more motivated, and I could be a little bit more like proactive about recording and preparing. And I'm hoping that the beginning of the new year, maybe we can I can start fresh and we can really get ahead on episodes and do backlogs and just kind of have all of our episodes for the month kind of done in 2 days, and then I can just edit those as I go, because I have stuff going on. We have stuff going on in our lives, and I have stuff going on in my life that is going to make it more difficult to record these episodes the day that they come out. And I just know that I need to kind of be more on top of it. And it's less about the podcast and it's more about me. So I wrote this question down just in case you had something, but I was sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, it's nothing about the podcast itself. Yeah. It's always about me and wishing that I was more motivated and more like I said, proactive about wanting to do, because it's not a lack of passion. I absolutely love doing this podcast.
Well, I think you're not saying it right. I think you wish your schedule was a little bit more regular,
yes,
work wise, because you work some day shifts, you work some night shifts, you do work doubles on Sundays, so by Monday on your day off you're exhausted, and
I
so
sleep half the day.
So it's, once you have a better schedule, hopefully it'll be better. So that's it. I absolutely love doing this podcast. I love all these shows that we discover, getting reacquainted with these shows, introduce shows to me, versa versa for you. So let's get on with the plot summary. And I have 2 questions. I know one definite, another one that I might have to kind of dig in the vault a little bit, but I can probably think of something because life is full of stories. Mm-hmm. So, all right, so let's get to the girls' plot summary. Marnie surprises Hannah at her home upstate, which was a really funny opening scene so I didn't realize that when we were watching the episode so Hannah wakes up and Marnie is in bed with her. She's spooning her, holding her stomach. And I'm not realizing that Hannah didn't know that Marnie was there. Right.
Which I thought was really funny.
And that's how the series opened.
Okay.
Yeah, they were in bed together.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to, I didn't realize that. All right. Admitting that she doesn't have much going on in her life since her band dissolved, Marnie explains she'd like to help Hannah raise the baby. Hannah accepts the offer. So now five months has now passed, and Hannah is a new mom, and she takes baby Grover to the doctor for a checkup. By the way, that baby is so freaking cute.
Oh my God, so cute.
He's in great health, but Hannah's concerned because Grover won't breastfeed. So she said that he did in the beginning, and then just one day he just stopped latching.
Yep.
She's worried that it'll interfere with their relationship. The doctor reassures her that everything is okay. As she and Marnie are driving home, Marnie states her case for breastfeeding. She claims people who are breastfed are more likely to be successful, which I want real numbers on that. People always...
I wasn't breastfed.
Neither was I. So that's why I was just sitting here I think people just... I think that's one of those
Makes it up.
Yeah, it's just one of those sayings or, people... facts with heavy quotes around it. After numerous attempts to breastfeed Grover, Hannah gives up and gives him a bottle. Marnie tries to help her, but only causes Hannah to stress out more. Marnie tells Hannah about a jazz event in a nearby town and she wants to go to. Hannah immediately shoots the idea down because it would mean Marnie leaving her alone with the baby. So Hannah's afraid to be left alone with the baby, which, as a new parent, I can't blame anyone for that. It is very scary, this idea that you are left in charge for this tiny little human. You're in charge of them presumably until they're 18, and maybe longer if you're Hannah's parents, longer than that. And it's a very scary feeling. As when I was a new parent, it was very. I remember that first week after Maddie was born, we stayed at Jamie's parents' house, and that week I had to go back to work, and we needed to get acclimated in our house with Maddie, and we were both terrified to leave that house. Like, we were both just so scared because we were like, all right, it's just us now, you know, like, that's it.
And what do we do?
So the next morning, Hannah wakes up to discover Marnie called in reinforcements. Lorene. Hannah vents to Lorene about her experience as a mother thus far. She admits to being afraid she'll raise Grover to have all of her flaws. Lorene doles out some tough love. So the MVP of this episode is Becky Ann Baker.
Oh, my God.
That whole scene between her and Hannah, and she's following her around the house, and they're having this conversation, and it goes from getting like really heated to really calm to really heated to really calm. Becky Ann Baker is an American treasure. She is married to one of the greatest character actors of all time, Dylan Baker.
Creepy.
I know. The serial killer in Trick or Treat, the Nazi doctor in Hunters. He is just so good at playing a piece of shit. And Becky Ann Baker plays the best mom, other than maybe Connie Britton. They're maybe the top two like moms of this era that are just the best. And her whole like basically telling Hannah like, I know you have problems. Everyone has problems. That doesn't make you special. Like, you have to deal with it like everyone else does, which is something that I don't know if her mom has ever really talked to her this way. Maybe here and there throughout the series.
Well, I'm trying to think of the whole like sequence of things that happened, but in a way, I think she's essentially saying you made this decision.
Yes,
and you know. You did have the opportunity to not be in this place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so she's like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, welcome. This is
exactly. Yeah.
Baby's not going anywhere. And so, you know, and she's trying to do it in a pretty calm way.
Until the end, yeah.
You know, yeah. And so it's just, but I think she's like us, where we're all tired of Hannah.
Yeah.
Of being like, you are always quick to blame everybody and not look in the mirror and just be like, it's me.
Well, because then when Hannah's mom gives her that tough love, I mean, Hannah kind of fires back and blames it on her. Like, oh, I'm a bad mother because you were a bad mother, or because you made these terrible decisions. You married a closeted gay man, and you gave me all of these problems, and like,
right, that's what I'm saying.
Just
like
a very unfair thing, but it's Hannah being Hannah. Like, it's
well, right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She just keeps blaming everybody but herself
exactly
for everything. And
so so they have this big. So it starts out with Hannah's mom kind of giving her, I want to say, a little bit more of like a pep talk, and she's like trying to be positive and trying to be encouraging, and Hannah's being a brat like she always is. And so it turns into basically Hannah's mom just yelling at her because it's like, you're entitled. You put yourself in the situation. You chose to have this baby. You chose to keep this baby. You chose to move away from the city. You chose this house. You chose this job. You chose this life. And now you want it to be, now you don't like it. It's not turning out exactly the way that you want it. So now the world is over and it's everybody's fault but your own. And that is honestly the millennial way of thinking, but like, it is also just very frustrating as a parent, as a viewer, as in everything. Whether you're a parent or not watching this, it has to be frustrating for everybody to watch this girl have all of these opportunities, and for her to, you know, kind of go this more complicated path of life, but then not take ownership or accountability. And it's very frustrating to watch. I'm sure, like I said, a lot of people watch this and are very frustrated with Hannah. I know that's the point. She created this character to be unlikable because it is a really big mirror for a lot of millennials, because it's the and Gen Zers and the way that we all kind of were raised and we live our lives and, you know, all of that stuff. So they have this big falling out. You and I both, we've talked about this a lot. You and I are both the youngest you have two older siblings. I have an older sister. And you and I didn't really fight with our parents. No, I know I didn't.
There was no fighting with my parents.
Right.
I mean, period.
So I will kind of readjust the question that I originally had, because this really wasn't much of a fight between Hannah and, is it Lorene? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Hannah and Lorene, and Hannah and her mom. This really wasn't a fight. It was what we like to call a come to Jesus moment, where basically the Hannah's mom is like, this could have been a pep talk, but you have turned this into a come to Jesus moment where I am telling you, you need to change your ways, or you're going to maybe not lose your baby, but you're going to have a terrible relationship with your son. You're going to have a terrible relationship. And I know that Hannah's also afraid of, she's had so much bad luck with choosing men and kind of always choosing the wrong guy. She's now afraid that she's going to raise one of those types of men. She says that at some point in the episode. Anyway, so you and I didn't really fight with our parents, but I know that I had a come to Jesus moment, at least one or two with either one of my parents. Did you ever have one with your parents? I'm not a fight or a come to Jesus moment, or just a moment where like...
No, not particularly. I mean, I feel like I have always been very ambitious, career driven, wanting to be on my own. Probably, I will say, the only time that I think my mom attempted a come to Jesus moment on me was when I decided to go to law school.
Okay.
So I had gone to undergrad. I took an extra year to finish my undergrad degree because my dad died when I was a junior, and I became like a little bit withdrawn. So I took like the bare minimum of classes for like my first senior year. And then my mom was like, I'm cutting you off, so good luck. So I had to kick it into gear.
Yeah.
Then I decided to get my first master's degree while I was also teaching. So I was getting my master's and teaching. I got my master's degree in education. And then I got let go of that job, and I had to move home. So because I couldn't pay my bills. And so I moved home in the summer of 1995, and I got a job at the local department store doing seasonal help, but turned into a full-time job. And then like that spring, I decided on a whim to like apply to law school. I took the LSAT and was like, I had tried to find teaching jobs in New Orleans, but I was so specialized teaching Spanish that there were really no openings. And I didn't want to work at a private school because it didn't have benefits and the pay was crap. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to law school.
Yeah.
And so I will never forget, I took the LSAT, got into several law schools in Louisiana. And then on the very first day of orientation, I was leaving the house, and my mom decided to pick a fight with me.
Okay.
And it was about the fact that I was going to law school and that I couldn't stay in school for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Joke's on her. Love you, Mom. Happy birthday. Today would have been her 94th birthday.
Aww.
Yeah. So we had this big fight, and she was just like, I can't believe you're going to school again, and you're just going to get into debt, and what are you going to do? And then you're going to become a lawyer, and then you're going to stop doing that, just like you stopped teaching. And I was just like kind of surprised because I had like never stopped getting any of my degrees. I was like, I've always finished all of my degrees, and I had technically been on my own since I was 20 when my mom cut me off because she didn't have any more money to lend me for school. And so I was like, where is this coming from? Like, why are you being so mean? You'd think I was like selling crack or something. I'm going to school. So we had this big fight. And I think once I graduated, I think she was very proud of me.
Yeah.
And when I got my job with Thomson Reuters and Westlaw, and I've been doing that for almost 28 years now since I graduated. So I think that was probably it. And it was more in the sense of like, you can't keep going to school as your excuse to get out of working. And that's really what I wasn't doing. I had been trying to find a teaching job. I don't know if I've ever told the story, but one of the interviewers at the school board offered me a chemistry teaching job. And I was like, do you want me to blow people up? I don't know chemistry. And so I was like, English, history, civics, French. I was like, I can figure those out, but I can't teach math or science. So that was probably it. I think my mom was afraid that I was going to continuously use school as a crutch.
Yeah.
And she knew she couldn't support me. And I think that was always what worried her, was like, she also wanted me to be on my own. Like, she never wanted me to have to rely on her or on someone. And so I think she was just afraid I was just going back to school again. And so, but I do think inevitably she was very proud that I graduated. I was honored at graduation at the Mass and had a job, well-paying job, went out and lived on my own, did amazing things. And, you know, I think I made her very proud in the end. But yeah, I think that was probably one of my biggest, like, kind of battles ever with my mom, which was just ironic because she was mad I was going to school.
Yeah. So do you kind of like, do you understand where she was coming from, though?
Oh, I absolutely knew it. And I'm going to tell you this, like, I think a thing that was different about then was when I was going to, like, the school board. I went to the Orleans Parish School Board. I went to the Jefferson Parish School Board. I had interviewed actually in Lafayette. My godmother had offered me to move in with her and work in Lafayette. And, like, they did not have any Spanish teacher openings back in the late 90s. I don't know if there was like an influx of Spanish teachers or something back then, but no school board had any openings.
Yeah.
And I had worked at a private school in Monroe, and I just could not live on $12,000 a year. I mean, that's what I was being paid at the private school. And I just was like, Mom, I'm trying to find a job. Like, you know, I've been going on these interviews. And so I think hers was also just not knowing all that I was doing. But I was also not up my mom's butt telling her everything I was doing. Like, so I just don't think she knew how hard I was really trying. And I was at a loss by spring because I was like, if I don't get a job going into summer, it's going to be another school year. Yeah. That's going to go by that I'm not teaching. You know, not that working at the department store was horrible, but I was like, I can't keep living off of my semi-minimum wage pay, 20 hours a week. So anyway, I knew what she was saying. I just was like, I'm trying to do something about it. I'm trying to give myself another opportunity for a better job. And, you know, I think she just thought I was using school as an excuse to just keep partying or going out and not working. So, yeah. Yeah.
So like I said, we both had very different lives, and when I graduated high school, I didn't go to college. I didn't really make the best grades. I could have gone to college. I just wouldn't have gotten tops, and my parents weren't going to pay for full tuition to a 4-year college because they couldn't. And also it was probably for the best because I don't think it would have stuck. I was not interested in going to school. My parents always really struggled with me, and I struggled as well with this, but just kind of finding my, like, purpose in life and finding, like, the thing that I was going to do for the rest of my life. And it always felt very, I don't know if scary is the right word, but it was always very, like, I'll just use scary because I can't think of another word, but it was always very kind of scary for me just to think of the idea of, like, I'm doing this one thing for the rest of my life and that's it. And it's like so many people I knew over the years that, like, went and got their degrees and they're like, oh no, I got a degree in this thing. I have to get a job in this thing, or else what I did for the last 4 years was a complete waste of time. And I know a lot of people that went into a lot of student loan debt and that went and, you know, spent more. It took them 6 or 7 years to get a bachelor's degree because they had to take 2 or 3 classes a semester because they had to start paying for it themselves because they lost tops. Like, and it always just felt very scary to me just to kind of, oh, I'm going to pick this one thing. I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. So my parents always really struggled with me in that sense because I was always working in restaurants. I was really didn't have an interest in going to college, and I was it took me a little while to kind of grow up, and it took me a little while to really mature and figure out who I am and figure out what I wanted out of life. And it took me a very long time to figure that out. Well, until I met you, I was still figuring that out, and I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And ultimately, I figured it out that it doesn't really matter what I'm doing as long as it can afford the things that I want to do in life. That's all I really care about. Like, I don't really care what I do for a living as long as it allows me to go on trips with you. It allows me to pay my bills. It allows me to spend the time that I want with you and traveling and doing all that stuff and doing all the little fun things that we do, because that's what I want in life. I really could give two shits about my career. I could give, I mean, not in a bad way, just in a way that, like, that's just not my life's goal, is to have this career that I can be like, wow, I have this great career and it's amazing. Like, no, there's so many different measures of someone other than what they do for a living. And my parents really struggled with that. They didn't understand that. They grew up in a different time, in a different generation, where that it is all about getting a good job and starting a family, and that's that, and that's your life. And that's just not what was in my plan, at least career-wise. And so when I was about 18, 19, 20, like that era of my life, I was very lost. I was very much not knowing what I wanted to do. I was going to community college, and I was working at a kitchen. I was working at Applebee's, I think, at this point in time. And I had a girlfriend that I had had since high school. And I was finally like, oh, I'm going to be an adult and I'm going to get an apartment. I'm going to move out of my mom's house and I'm going to get an apartment with my girlfriend, because that's what adults do. Of course, being 19 years old, we did not discuss anything. We did not talk about finances. We did not talk about how we were going to do the bills. We did not talk about who was going to be in whose name. We didn't talk about any of that. We were both also very immature. We were also extremely incompatible as a couple, something that you don't realize when you're really young, that's pretty important. pretty important. I mean, you know, maybe.
It was like you were trying to grow up too soon.
I was trying to grow up, but I was doing it in all the ways that, like, I was trying to grow up, but like in the most immature way. I think that's probably like the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And I, you know, the first few months I was living in the apartment, everything was fine. We're paying the bills, everything was getting taken care of, and I don't know what happened. And I'm not going to sit here and like try to place blame, because I'm at fault just like anybody else is. I don't know if maybe I was just like kind of spending my money and I wasn't really like, you know, setting money aside, or I wasn't like kind of paying attention to, okay, I pay this much a month for my rent and for my utilities. I need to have this at the end of the month. Like, I wasn't doing that. And there was 1 month where I did not have, I was like negative $20-something in my checking account, and I didn't have any money, and I wasn't getting paid for like 2 weeks. We had rent due. I don't know if my girlfriend was really doing that much more, because she was also in school and she was only working like 3 days a week at Walmart. So it was like we were both being very irresponsible, and she wasn't going to ask her parents for money. So I had to ask my parents for money. And so we both went to my dad's house one evening for dinner, and I asked my dad if he could help me with rent. And his response was, Jeff, I need to talk to you outside. And if anyone has a parent, they know, anyone who's ever heard that knows that we're not going to have a pleasant conversation. So my dad takes me outside, and he didn't yell at me, because my dad, I mean, like, he knew that, like, there, and I might have to bleep that name out. I did not mean to say her name. He didn't know that my girlfriend was, he knew that my girlfriend was inside. He wasn't going to, like, yell at me, like, scream. But he kind of took me outside, and he was like, what is going on with you? Like, why did you move into this apartment if you can't afford it? Like, why did you had a free house at your mom's, and your mom doesn't even live there. Your sister doesn't even live there anymore. It's just you, and like, you could just live there for free. Why are you moving in this apartment? Why are you trying to, he was basically like, why are you trying to sabotage yourself? And that was the first time I heard the term self-sabotage. And that was the first time where this is a moment where I was talking about earlier, where when you tell these stories and when you think about these moments, they don't seem like big moments in your life. But when you really sit there and talk about it and think about it, you're like, this was a very big moment in my life for me when it came to me kind of growing up, taking accountability, and realizing that growing up isn't necessarily doing the traditional things that you're led to believe. Growing up is just learning how to take accountability and learning how to take care of yourself and learning how to not always have to rely on someone for every little thing.
Yeah.
And that's what really growing up is. It's not, because what we were doing was playing house. Like, we were just, we thought we were adults. We, spent money that we didn't have on stuff that we didn't need for our apartment so we could have our cute little apartment. And
because I didn't realize, like, you still had the Azalea Lakes house to live in.
Yeah.
I when you said that, I was like, why in the hell did you move out? Especially if your mom wasn't there. I'm not going to ask why didn't she just move in, because I'm sure Gina wouldn't have allowed that.
She kind of lived there a little bit, but like my mom kept kind of coming back home and every time she came back home, my girlfriend had to like go stay somewhere because I don't know the situation with her parents. I'm not going to talk about that because that's none of my business, but like she had to leave and go elsewhere. And so I don't know why.
So this became a solution to her having to leave every time your mom came home.
Kinda, I guess.
Right. So that's probably what Lloyd was saying.
And so it was this really big moment for me where it was like, oh, I get it now. Like, and it still took me a long time to kind of grow up, and I had to move to Florida and really be on my own. I think that's why, because it was like less than a year later when I moved to Florida. This was all the year leading up to me moving, and so it's just like I think that was why I moved to Florida, because I was like, the only way for me to grow up and be on my own is to physically remove myself from this situation and go grow up, because I just wanted to grow up. Like, I just wanted to like be on my own and figure it out. And I did, and I came back home, and it still took me a really long time, but I eventually made it to that point. I'm sure both my parents are very happy that they're no longer receiving calls from me saying that I need help with this, I need help with that. I know they are, obviously, but, I was just, when it came to growing up, I was a little bit of a late bloomer. That's why it's almost like a reluctant, I like reluctantly relate to girls. It's like, I don't want to admit that I can relate to this show so much, but I can. I wasn't as entitled as Hannah. I was, like I said, a little bit more of a Marnie. I was a little bit more of, I kind of just was like, oh, well, if I do this thing, then I'll get what I want. And it's like, no, sometimes shit just happens. And like, you can't control it. You can't control life. It's a lot like what Hannah's going through in this episode. A lot like Marnie, who is just like, oh, I want to be a singer, musician, so I'm going to go do it. And then I have to become famous, or I have to become successful. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, it takes more than just a few successful gigs in order to have a successful musical career. And I don't think Marnie understood that. I think there was also some stuff with her mom that I don't remember, but like about the whole, because her mom was a musician too, right?
Not really, but I mean, she became her partner when Desi flaked off and whatever. But yeah.
So yeah, I
think she was always very competitive with her mom.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I kind of that was kind of the moment when my dad kind of took me outside and really kind of gave me that come to Jesus moment where I really started to begin to grow up, and really started to, because it wasn't that much long after where me and my girlfriend moved out of that apartment. I moved back into my house. She moved into her own apartment, so she wasn't coming over and staying at my mom's house anymore. And I was a lot more on my own, and then that was just kind of the beginning of the end for us. And then we ended up breaking up, and then I ended up being on my own completely. And so that was kind of my dad kind of kicked me in the butt and kind of kick-started my journey to growing up. Thanks, Dad. He's probably not listening, but
they don't do pods.
But yeah, so that's my story. I know I had more come to Jesus moments with my parents, mostly with my dad. My dad was very good at kind of telling me what I needed to hear. My dad always, as much as I struggled with my relationship with my dad, just as a boy, and my dad, like, we just kind of like mothers with their daughters, fathers with their sons. We butted heads a lot. I think he didn't understand me. I didn't understand him. And then now he's like one of my favorite people in the world. So, I mean, it's just like, you know, it's just, and I absolutely love my parents. I feel like I have a great relationship with all three of my parents. I really lucked out in the parent department. I have great parents, and they have been very patient with me, and they have just loved me unconditionally, and I'm just very grateful for it. And so that is my story. I have never spoken to my mother the way Hannah spoke to her mother in this episode.
That would never
I wanted
happen.
to backhand her when she's talking to my boo, Becky Ann Baker. I did not like it at all. So Hannah and her mom get into this big fight. She storms out, leaving Marnie and Lorene with the baby. Hannah goes and disappears and goes and walks around her neighborhood or her area of residence, I guess. A little bit later, Marnie's having phone sex. Lorene walks in on her, which was really funny. A little bit later, Marnie and Lorene kind of have a little conversation, and Lorene kind of sees that Marnie is lost and kind of sees that Marnie is just kind of clinging on to Hannah, being like, oh, well, Hannah needs me. And it's like, well, now she needs you, but, you know, once she gets the hang of being a parent, she's not really going to need you anymore. So what does that mean for you? Like, what are you going to do? And Marnie doesn't really know. What do you need? And, you know, and Lorene kind of sees Marnie and Hannah a very similar parallel to her and her husband or ex-husband. I don't know if they were divorced, but kind of seeing like you don't want to build a life with someone that you're just like incompatible with, and that's what they're doing, and they're kind of
just to stay with them just because you're
right.
Yeah.
And so you kind of see a little bit of Marnie kind of maybe starting to figure out what she's going to be doing. Hannah's wandering around her neighborhood. She runs into a teenage girl, this was really funny, who's clearly in distress. You're thinking that maybe she's like escaping like an abusive house, or she was just attacked. This teenage girl is just freaking out. She's doing the hyperventilating, crying thing, and finally Hannah gets out of her that this girl ran away from home because her mom wanted her to do her homework, and she wanted to go spend time with her boyfriend. So that was when Hannah kind of lets this girl have it, and that was kind of this moment where she's just like, you know, your mom loves you so much, and you're going to run away, and you're going to come home, and your mom's not going to be mad at you. She's just going to be glad that you're home. Like, your mom is looking out for you, and you need to understand that. And what was really funny is that, so this girl is running away from her house, and she's wearing these little booty shorts, and so Hannah gives her pants. And Hannah's like, you know, you're an entitled little brat. Give me my pants back. And then the little girl runs away with her pants. So now my favorite scene was Hannah walking home in her underwear. And then this cop pulls over, and she's like, hey, you need a ride home? And she's like, no, I'm fine. And so the cop follows her home in the car, which was like my favorite part of the episode, going at a snail's pace and kind of talking over his intercom. And he more or less escorts her home, and Hannah gets home. Marnie and Lorene are kind of sitting out front, drinking a glass of wine. They're kind of sitting there talking. There's a little bit of like in true girls fashion, kind of this unspoken apology between Hannah and the two others, because she's kind of really reamed into both of them throughout this episode, which is really unfair because they're the two people who are taking care of her unconditionally and kind of putting up with her bullshit. And so they hear Grover crying on the baby monitor, and Hannah's like, no, I got this. Like, y'all sit there and y'all got this. And so she picks up Grover, and she's kind of singing to him, and then out of nowhere, he latches. And then she smiles, and there's like this sense of relief. And, you know, it's not going to be end of episode. You know, it's not going to be an easy road for Hannah. She has chosen a tough path, being a single parent and raising this baby by herself. Yeah, she has help, but Marnie is eventually going to move out. Her mother doesn't live she's in upstate New York, I'm assuming.
Hannah's in upstate
that's
New York,
what, yeah, that's
her
what I
mom
mean.
is in Iowa.
Or Ohio.
Yeah. Somewhere, yeah.
So,
Midwest, yeah.
You know, Hannah's eventually going to have to be completely on her own, and it's not going to be easy, but, you know, I think that the end of this episode kind of, the sense of relief of just like, I'm going to be okay. Like, life isn't easy. It's not going to always be great, but I'm going to be okay. This baby is going to be okay as long as the baby knows that there's love in his life. And I don't know if that's like the exact interpretation, but that's kind of what I gathered from it, because just the way they kind of ended it, it was very much like very open-ended, very, you know,
and I think
life
she
goes
also
on.
realizes that Grover is like 100% reliant on her.
Exactly.
Not on Laureen and not on Marnie.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah's the mom.
Right.
And so I think she comes to realize, like, maybe in a split second, for at least one moment, like, I need to get my shit together.
Yeah.
You know.
So this was possibly the first time I've ever actually watched this series finale before. I've seen Goodbye Tour. I want to say I watched Latching maybe when it originally aired, and I watched it with you, and that was maybe the last time I watched it. But I have a clear memory of Goodbye Tour. I have a clear memory of, well, what are we going to do this time about Adam? Random kind of things throughout the final season, but this was kind of the one that I didn't really remember as much. I really loved this series finale. I mean, like, you know, Girls isn't my favorite show in the entire world, but, like, I appreciate it for what it is. You know, Lena Dunham's a very controversial person, and you either get it and you love her, or you don't get it and you can't stand her. And I am kind of in the camp of, like, I like Lena Dunham, and I relate to her stuff in a way. I don't directly relate to it, but I kind of, like, in a broad sense, I kind of relate to her content. I know her most recent show wasn't that well liked. I know it was a very depressing show, but from what we watched, I liked it. And,
it was very Lena Dunham.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it was called Too Much. That's why I just said that. Yeah.
And so, I mean, Girls, look, y'all, if y'all have never seen Girls before and this episode maybe interested y'all, I mean, obviously this isn't like a huge spoiler of like a TV show, because this isn't like Stranger Things or Game of Thrones where we're really revealing stuff. But if you've never watched Girls, this isn't going to ruin it for you, like us telling you what the series finale is.
Oh, yeah.
I would recommend it, and if you didn't like the series finale, you can do what a lot of other fans do and just ignore it and count Goodbye Tour as your series finale.
Yeah.
Which is what I think a lot of fans did, maybe in the moment, but I think that Latching has kind of gotten some retroactive love. I think people kind of appreciate it now. Like I said, you know, when you're in your 20s watching this show and you're single or you're casually dating and you're watching it, you're maybe like, I didn't understand why that was series finale. I didn't like it, but the older you get and the more you grow up, you realize that's just how life is. And, you know, it's not easy. It's not pretty. You know, I think Lena Dunham was very intentional with her, you know, nudity, and very intentional. Like, this is what women look like. This is what normal women look like. We're not, I'm saying it like I'm a woman, but like, you know, women, they're not supermodels. They're not all hanging out in black lace bra and
fully
panties.
made up every single day with their hair done.
And that's what women look like, and that's what women in America look like. And if you don't like it, who fucking cares if you don't like it? This is how it is. And I've always appreciated that. And I love the whole scene with her and her mom walking around the house, and she's just kind of like throwing her clothes off and like putting her clothes back on. Her mom's like trying to dress her. She's like, I can do it. And then like lets her mom dress her. You know, it's just like, I loved that whole scene between her and her mom. Becky Ann Baker is an MVP for sure. I love her so much. I
love her too.
Yeah. So you got anything else you want to say about this episode?
No, I mean, I loved it. I'm not going to say that I loved it in that moment. Like you said, a lot of people thought Goodbye Tour. There was a lot in this season that they were trying to wrap up and give endings to, and you know, like Ray, Desi, Elijah, you know, you had Adam and Jessa, because like even Shoshana's engagement came out of nowhere. Like, she had not been in like the last few episodes, and all of a sudden she's having an engagement party, you know. So there was a lot going on that I think people were all like, what in the hell has just happened?
Mm-hmm.
So aside from the like Goodbye Tour that a lot of people felt was like the closure, then Latching came and we're like, oh, we're still going?
Yeah.
So I think there was that little bit of confusion. And so...
And Goodbye Tour sounds like the episode title of a series finale.
Correct. And and so I loved Girls for, you know, the series that it was, because it was so not who I was, but
right.
I can appreciate that generation and everything that they did and the craziness, because even if I'm not like that, we've all done stupid shit in our life. Like, you know, the stories we've just told, like deciding like, okay, well, I can't get a teaching job, so I'm going to go to college, law school, and, you know, take on more debt.
Right.
And I can tell you that was probably the biggest reason my mom didn't want me to go to law school. It wasn't that I was going to school.
Right.
It was like, this was going to cost me like $60,000 of law school debt. So that was what my mom was probably really more concerned without saying it.
Yeah.
So anywho.
All right, you think that wraps this one up?
That was it.
All right, this is the last episode we are recording before we go on our little vacation, and then when we come back, we got some more recording to do, and I cannot wait. This is going to be a really fun month. All the episodes for this month are great, and this was one that I'm glad we started off. We were originally going to start off with another show, but we're starting off with this show, and I'm glad we did because, I really enjoyed this episode.
All right.
And I really kind of want to. I really want to go back and watch every episode of Girls. Kind of.
Let's do it.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, I don't have too many. Obviously, any of the New York City, although they've left New York City and are now in upstate New York. The baby, the doctor, the milk or bottle. I don't know if there's a bottle emoji. Any of the family, the mom, the daughter, like two girls, a mom and her baby, the phone for the phone sex, the cop, and the music for the end when she is singing to little baby Grover.
Tootie.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.